Welcome to Axiox. In the vast, silent archive of human history, we have convinced ourselves that the pyramids of Giza are finished. We have measured them to the millimeter. We have scanned them with cosmic muons. We have cataloged every stone, every angle, and every empty sarcophagus. We told ourselves they are monuments to dead kings, static, silent, and final. But what if they aren't finished? What if a machine doesn't look like a machine until you plug it in? What if the pyramids have simply been waiting in standby mode for 4,500 years? On November 8th, 2025, humanity received an answer we weren't ready for. An amateur astronomer in the Austrian Alps captured an image of a new interstellar object, designated 3I/Atlas. It was supposed to be a comet. It was supposed to be a dead rock tumbling through the dark. But rocks don't stabilize themselves against the solar wind. Rocks don't fire thrusters. And rocks certainly do not draw maps of our own planet. This is the story of the Atlas alignment. It is the story of 7 impossible jets of gas, 7 ancient monuments, and the terrifying realization that the history of Earth did not happen in isolation. The key has finally arrived, and the lock is beginning to turn. To understand the anomaly, we first have to understand the visitor. We have had interstellar guests before. In 2017, we had Oumuamua, the Scout. It was a cigar-shaped oddity that tumbled through our system and accelerated away as if it had an engine. Then came Borisov in 2019, which behaved largely like a normal comet. We thought we knew the pattern. We thought the universe was just throwing random debris at us. Then came July 1st, 2025. The Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS, flagged an object entering the inner solar system. It wasn't orbiting the Sun. It was plunging down from the galactic plane, coming from the direction of Sagittarius. It was moving at 250,000 kilometers per hour. At that velocity, the Sun's gravity is just a suggestion. This object wasn't captured by our star. It was a bullet fired from deep space, aiming for a close flyby. Astronomers immediately noticed the anomalies. First, the speed. It wasn't slowing down as it approached the Sun. It was speeding up, but not in a way that gravity could explain. Comets do this when they off-gas. Ice turns to steam, creating a rocket effect. But 3I/Atlas had no tail. It had no coma. There was no dust cloud. It was a naked object, accelerating like a sports car. Harvard physicists pointed out the mass anomaly. Based on its brightness, it should have been small. Based on its gravitational interaction, it was massive. It behaved as if it were made of super dense heavy metals, compacted into a frame that defied standard physics. The scientific community remained cautious. They called it a dark comet. They called it a hydrogen iceberg. They tried to fit the square peg into the round hole
of standard astrophysics. And then came perihelion, October 29th, 2025. As 3I Atlas skimmed past the Sun, it didn't break up, it didn't melt, it brightened, but not with the white glow of reflected sunlight. It pulsed with a spectral blue hue, bluer than the Sun itself. It was absorbing solar radiation and re-emitting it. And then, as it rounded the star and began its journey back out into the dark, it stabilized. Most astronomers turned their telescopes away. The show was supposed to be over. But the amateurs were still watching. In the high altitudes of Austria, a team of astrophotographers, Michael Jaeger, Gerald Riemann, and Frank Niebling, were tracking the object using modified equipment designed to capture faint gas trails. At 4:10 a.m. Universal Time, they captured an image that would change the world. It wasn't a fuzzy tail. It wasn't a chaotic cloud. It was a structure. 7 distinct, collimated jets of gas, or plasma, firing simultaneously from the object. 3 short jets, 2 medium, 2 long. A comet's tail always points away from the sun, pushed by solar wind. These jets were pointing in fixed directions, completely ignoring the sun's position. They were rigid. They were deliberate. The image was posted to a niche astronomy forum at 6 a.m. By 9 a.m., it was on Reddit. By noon, the astronomers were arguing about rotation smearing and camera artifacts. But the internet isn't burdened by the slow process of peer review. The internet looks for patterns. A user on a fringe history forum, known only as hematologist, made a strange observation. They noted the angles of the jets. They weren't symmetrical. They looked familiar. At 2:45 p.m. that day, hematologist posted a side-by-side comparison that broke the internet. On the left, the inverted image of the 3I Atlas jets. On the right, an aerial map of the Giza plateau. When you overlay the images, the silence becomes deafening. It wasn't a vague resemblance. It was a blueprint. The central jet aligned perfectly with the Great Pyramid of Khufu. The second jet hit the apex of the Pyramid of Khafre. The third locked onto the Pyramid of Menkora. Skeptics immediately pointed to the Orion correlation theory, the idea that the pyramids match the stars of Orion's belt. That theory has been debated for decades. If 3I Atlas was just copying Orion, it would be a coincidence. But 3I Atlas had 7 jets, and Giza has more than 3 pyramids. This is where the anomaly becomes a mathematical impossibility. The smaller, sharper jets in the image didn't just point into empty sand. They hit the so-called Queen's Pyramids, the satellite structures of Menkora and Khufu that most tourists ignore. The angles match to within 0.05 degrees. The probability of 7 random gas vents on a spinning asteroid aligning with the exact ground plan of a necropolis built 4,500 years ago is 1 in 8 billion. It is statistically impossible, which leaves us with 2 terrifying options. 1. It is a pareidolia, a trick of the mind, seeing faces in clouds. Or 2. The layout of Giza was not designed by looking up at the stars. It was designed by looking at this object. Or perhaps this object was designed to look at Giza. For centuries, Egyptologists have debated the purpose of the air shafts in the Great Pyramid. We know they aren't for air. They were sealed at both ends. They are star shafts. In 1964, astronomer Virginia Trimble determined that the southern shaft pointed to Orion's belt and the northern shaft pointed to the pole star, but only if you wind the clock back to 2500 BC. It was a funeral date, a timestamp frozen in stone. But there's a problem with that timestamp. The alignment in 2500 BC was good, but it wasn't perfect. It was slightly off. Egyptologists blamed it on construction error.
But the ancient Egyptians didn't make errors. They aligned the pyramid to true north within 3/60ths of a degree. They didn't miss the stars, unless they weren't aiming for the stars at all. When the jet image went viral, researchers from the University of Politecnico di Milano ran a new simulation. They took the trajectory of 3I Atlas, they rewound it, and then they fast-forwarded it. They found that on December 19, 2025, the date of 3I Atlas's closest approach to Earth, the object will pass directly overhead of Giza. For exactly 12 minutes on December 19th, the southern shaft of the King's Chamber will not point at Orion. It will point directly at the nucleus of 3I Atlas. The shaft isn't a periscope for a dead pharaoh's soul. It's a receiver. And for the first time in 4.5 millennia, the transmitter is coming into range. And here is where the story shifts from intriguing coincidence to active threat, because the pyramids seem to know it's coming. On November 12th, 4 days after the jet image was taken, tourists inside the Great Pyramid reported a physical sensation: nausea, vertigo, static electricity making hair stand on end. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities quietly closed the King's Chamber for emergency restoration, citing humidity levels. But leaked audio from inside the Grand Gallery reveals a deep, oscillating hum, a low-frequency resonance that shouldn't exist in a pile of limestone. The structure is vibrating. The dead monument is waking up. To understand why this is happening, we have to go back to the geometry. We have to look at the missing piece. The Giza layout consists of the 3 main pyramids and the Sphinx. The 3I Atlas image accounts for the pyramids, but there is a 7th jet, the longest, faintest stream of gas in the Niebling Riemann image. When overlaid on the Giza map, this 7th jet doesn't hit a pyramid, it points southeast. It points to an empty patch of sand just past the Sphinx. Geologists have scanned that area before. Seismic surveys in the 1990s suggested cavities, voids in the bedrock, but digging was always forbidden.
The authorities claimed it was natural limestone erosion, but the map from the sky says otherwise. The map says there is something there, something that completes the circuit. If the pyramids are the engine and the shafts are the receiver, then the 7th jet points to the fuel source, or perhaps the pilot. We are watching a cosmic clock strike midnight. The alignment suggests that 3I Atlas is not a visitor. It is a returning traveler, a probe that orbits on a cycle so long that civilizations rise and fall between its visits. The last time it was here, the pyramids were built. Now it is back, and the lights are turning on. The question is no longer, what is it? The question is, what does it do? Is it a data dump, a recharge station, or is it a harvest? As the object draws closer to that December 19th alignment, the electromagnetic anomalies around Cairo are spiking. Satellites passing over Egypt are experiencing data corruption. The hum in the King's Chamber is getting louder. We are standing on the precipice of the greatest discovery in human history, or the greatest catastrophe. The ancients wrote on the walls of the temples about the first time, Zep Tepi, when gods walked among men. They spoke of the Ben stone, the seed of the universe that fell from the sky. We thought these were myths. We thought they were metaphors for the sun. But the Ben stone wasn't a metaphor. It was a depiction of a conical object descending from the heavens, bringing knowledge and fire. Look at the shape of 3I Atlas. Look at the shape of the Benben. They are identical. The pyramids are not tombs. They are a welcome mat, and the guest is at the door. To understand the mechanism, we must look inside the stone itself. For decades, the Great Pyramid was viewed as a pile of rock, 2.3 million blocks of limestone and granite. But if you look at it through the lens of an electrical engineer, the description changes. It is not a tomb. It is a coupled oscillator. It is a lens. Consider the materials. The bulk of the pyramid is nummulitic limestone. It's an insulator. But the inner chambers, the King's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, and the specific shafts we are discussing are constructed of red granite brought from Aswan, 500 miles away. This granite contains a high concentration of quartz crystal, and quartz has a very specific property known as piezoelectricity. If you squeeze quartz, it generates a voltage. If you vibrate it, it creates an electric field. The Great Pyramid is essentially a massive granite core surrounded by a limestone insulator. In any other context, we would call that a capacitor. We would call it a battery. The weight of the pyramid pressing down on the granite chambers creates a constant state of tectonic stress. The machine is charged. It has been charged for thousands of years. It just lacks a trigger. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project, a mission using cosmic ray muon radiography, made the most significant discovery in the history of Egyptology. They found the Big Void, a cavity 30 meters long, situated directly above the Grand Gallery. The archaeological community scrambled to explain it away. They called it a weight-relieving chamber. They said it was a construction gap. They refused to drill a hole to see what was inside. But look at the geometry of the Big Void. It isn't a random gap. It is the same size and shape as the Grand Gallery below it. It is a resonance chamber. If the Grand Gallery is the acoustic ramp, the Big Void is the echo chamber. And right now, that chamber is no longer empty. We mentioned the hum reported by tourists. That low-frequency vibration is not coming from the bedrock. It is resonating from the Big Void. The frequency has been measured at 432 Hz. This is not a random number. It is a harmonic of the Earth's own electromagnetic resonance, the Schumann resonance. The pyramid is tuning itself. It is locking on to a frequency, and that frequency is being broadcast by 3I Atlas. This brings us back to the object itself. As 3I Atlas moves away from the Sun, it isn't cooling down as expected. It is maintaining an intense magnetic field. The object is highly magnetized, likely composed of a rare iron-nickel alloy that we don't see in our solar system. As it cuts through the solar wind, it is acting like a dynamo. It is generating a massive electromagnetic wake. Usually, Earth's magnetosphere protects us from this kind of interference. But the trajectory of 3I Atlas is designed to bypass our shields. It is approaching from the south, below the ecliptic plane, where our magnetosphere is weaker. It is threading the needle. On December 19th, when the alignment is perfect, the magnetic wake of 3I Atlas will drape over the Earth. And the focal point of that interaction will be latitude 29.9792 degrees north, the exact coordinate of the Great Pyramid. This is why the star shafts are critical. They are not merely pointing at the object,
They are waveguides. The southern shaft of the King's chamber is dimensioned specifically to funnel microwave radiation. If 3I Atlas emits a burst of energy, a signal, that shaft will capture it, compress it, and shoot it directly into the granite sarcophagus in the King's chamber. The sarcophagus is not a coffin. It is too small for a standard coffin, and it was found empty. It is a transducer box. It is designed to take an incoming signal and vibrate the entire granite core of the structure. So, we have a transmitter, 3I Atlas. We have a receiver, the Great Pyramid. But what happens when the connection is made? To answer that, we have to look at the seventh jet. Remember the map. 6 jets hit the pyramids. The seventh jet hits the sand southeast of the Sphinx. For years, ground-penetrating radar has shown anomalies there. A labyrinth of tunnels, a massive rectangular void, the legendary Hall of Records. Mainstream archaeology bans excavation there. They say the water table is too high. They say it's dangerous. But if our model is correct, the seventh jet isn't pointing to a library. It is pointing to a power coupling. The pyramids are the engine, but the Sphinx is the ignition. On November 14th, 2 days after the hum began, a sinkhole opened up near the Sphinx's left paw. It was quickly covered up with tarps and guarded by military police. But satellite thermal imaging captured a heat signature venting from that hole. The temperature of the air coming out of the ground was 60 degrees Celsius hotter than the surrounding desert. The heat isn't volcanic. There is no volcanic activity in Giza. The heat is waste energy. The system is powering up. The machinery underground is beginning to spin. We are witnessing the end of the dormancy period. The blue sun event we saw when Atlas passed the sun was the handshake. It was the system acknowledging that the key is valid. Now, the key is being inserted into the lock. But who turned the key, and why now? The timing is the most unsettling variable. 3I Atlas operates on a cycle. If we calculate its orbital period based on its current velocity, we get a number, approximately 12,900 years. This number rings a bell for anyone who studies paleoclimatology. 12,900 years ago was the start of the Younger Dryas, a period of cataclysm, a sudden freeze, massive floods, the extinction of the megafauna, and, according to some theories, the destruction of an advanced precursor civilization. The last time this object was here, the world ended. Or maybe the world was reset. Is 3I Atlas a weapon? Is it a reboot switch for the planet? Or is it a lifeboat? There is a theory gaining traction among the few astrophysicists willing to risk their careers by talking about this. They suggest that 3I Atlas is not sending a signal to the pyramids. They suggest the pyramids are designed to send a signal back. The alignment on December 19th allows for a two-way stream. If the pyramid activates, if the granite core achieves full resonance, it will generate a column of ionized plasma shooting up through the atmosphere. A terrestrial laser, a beacon. What does it say? We are still here? Or does it say, ready for extraction? As we inch closer to the date, the behavior of the object is becoming more aggressive. It has begun to pulse. Radio telescopes are picking up a repeating sequence of bursts from 3I Atlas. It's a countdown. The pulses are getting faster. The interval is shrinking. And down on the Giza plateau, the stray dogs have stopped barking. The birds have left the sky. The silence is heavy,
like the air before a thunderstorm. The tourists are still taking selfies, unaware that the ground beneath their feet is a dormant colossus shaking off the dust of eons. We are about to find out what the pyramids were built for. We have treated them as gravestones for long enough. We forgot that the most durable structures are not built to remember the dead. They are built to preserve the living against the dark. The alignment is inevitable. The geometry is locked. The Atlas anomaly is not a theory anymore. It is a schedule. We have spent so much time looking at the stones that we forgot to look at the builders. And, more importantly, we forgot to look at ourselves. While the geologists were measuring the heat bloom under the Sphinx, and the astronomers were tracking the trajectory of 3I Atlas, a different kind of data started appearing in medical journals. It began as anecdotal reports from sleep clinics in Cairo, then Tel Aviv, then Athens. Within a week, it was global. People are dreaming the same dream. It's not a vague thematic similarity. It is a specific, recurring visual sequence. Subjects report standing in a vast, endless hall of polished black diorite. Above them, a blue star pulses with a rhythmic mechanical beat. They hear a sound, not with their ears, but inside their skulls. A sound of grinding stone, overlaid with complex geometric shapes that they can taste and feel. Neurologists call it mass psychogenic illness. They blame the 24-hour news cycle and the panic over the incoming object. But the EEG data tells a different story. This brings us to the most disturbing and perhaps the most profound aspect of the Atlas anomaly. The machine isn't just the pyramids. The machine is us. In the center of the human brain, deep inside the epithalamus, sits the pineal gland. It is the size of a grain of rice. Descartes called it the seat of the soul. The ancients represented it as the eye of Horus. For decades, modern science dismissed it as a vestigial organ, useful only for producing melatonin. But in 2002, researchers made a discovery that was largely ignored by the mainstream press. They found that the interior of the pineal gland is not just soft tissue. It is filled with microcrystals, specifically calcite crystals, calcium carbonate. These crystals are not random calcification. They are non-centrosymmetric. They have the same structure as the inner ear otoconia used for balance, but more importantly, they are piezoelectric. We discussed piezoelectricity in the granite of the king's chamber. It means that if you squeeze the crystal, it makes electricity. But the reverse is also true. If you hit the crystal with an electromagnetic field, it vibrates. The pineal gland is a transceiver. It is a biological radio. Now, consider the frequency. The hum coming from the Great Pyramid is resonating at 432 Hz and its harmonics. The blue sun object, 3I Atlas, is broadcasting a high-energy magnetic field. We are not just observers of this event, we are components of it. The headaches, the vertigo, the ringing in the ears. This isn't radiation sickness, this is resonance. The crystals in your brain are vibrating in sympathy with the granite in Giza. The network is coming online, and we are the wireless nodes. This leads us to the Orc-Or theory of consciousness, proposed by Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff. They suggested that consciousness doesn't come from neurons firing. It comes from quantum vibrations inside structures called microtubules. They argued that the brain is a quantum computer. If they are right, then 3I Atlas
isn't just transmitting data. It is transmitting a state of consciousness. The blue sun phenomenon supports this. Why is the object blue? It shouldn't be. It's a cold rock. The blue glow is likely Cherenkov radiation. This happens when charged particles move through a medium faster than the speed of light in that medium. It implies that 3I Atlas is surrounded by a high-energy field, a warp bubble, or a relativistic shield. It is pushing a massive wave of energy in front of it, and as that wave hits Earth, it interacts with our ionosphere, creating the auroras seen as far south as Mexico. But it also interacts with the bioelectric field of the human body. The government knows this. There is a reason why the US military just raised the DEFCON level to 3 silently. There is a reason why the internet cables in the Atlantic are being monitored by submarines. They aren't afraid of the rock hitting us. They are afraid of what happens when 7 billion people suddenly tune into the same frequency at the same time. Project Faraday is the rumored contingency plan. If the signal gets too strong on December 19th, the plan is to detonate high-altitude EMP devices to scramble the ionosphere, to create a shield of noise. They want to jam the signal. They want to deafen the pyramids and blind the pineal glands, because they suspect that the message isn't a speech, it's an update. The ancient texts speak of the Akh, the intellect, or the spirit that survives death. They say the pharaoh would travel to the stars to become an Akh. We always interpreted this as a journey out, but what if it's a journey in? What if the hall of records under the Sphinx isn't full of books? What if it's a backup drive? And 3I Atlas is the server coming to sync the files. The object has now entered Earth's Hill sphere. It is gravitationally locked to us. It has deployed what look like solar sails, or perhaps braking thrusters. It is slowing down. It is positioning itself for the hover. And down on the ground, the 7th jet's target, the void under the Sphinx, is reacting. The sand has turned to glass in a 3-meter radius around the sinkhole, not from fire, but from pure, focused vibration. The riddle of the Sphinx is about to be answered. Man was the answer to the riddle, and man is the final piece of the puzzle. We are 24 hours away from the alignment. The alignment that happens once every 12,900 years. The last time, the ice melted. This time, the fire might be in our minds. If you are hearing the high-pitched ring in your ears right now, do not be afraid. It just means your system is compatible. The clocks in Cairo have stopped, not figuratively. At 11:48 p.m. local time,
On December 19th, digital watches, quartz movements, and even the mechanical tower clock at Cairo University simply froze. The electromagnetic density of the atmosphere has become so thick that it is acting like a viscous fluid for timekeeping devices. The air tastes metallic. If you touch a car door handle in Giza right now, you get a shock strong enough to leave a burn mark. We are 12 minutes away from the alignment, the exact moment when the southern shaft of the King's Chamber draws a straight line to the nucleus of 3I Atlas. The military has retreated. The cordon around the Sphinx collapsed an hour ago, not because of a riot, but because the soldiers simply walked away. There is a psychological effect taking hold, a profound, overwhelming sense of arrival. It overrides fear. It overrides duty. It is the same sensation described by astronauts
looking back at Earth, the overview effect. But this time, the overview is coming to us. At 11:55 p.m., the sky above the plateau changes. It is night, but the clouds begin to glow from the inside out. They aren't reflecting city lights, they are fluorescing. The ionization trail of 3I Atlas is interacting with the upper atmosphere, creating a tunnel of auroral light, a perfect spiral descending directly toward the apex of the Great Pyramid. And then, the sound stops. The hum that has been vibrating the limestone for weeks cuts out. Total silence. The kind of silence that hurts the ears. The coupled oscillator has reached maximum charge. The capacitor is full. It is holding its breath. 11:59 p.m. The alignment. It doesn't start with a bang. It starts with the ground. The bedrock of the Giza plateau turns transparent to seismic sensors. It liquefies. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, weighing 6 million tons, shudders. And then, a beam of pure, coherent blue light erupts not from the pyramid, but through it. It comes from the sky, punches through the apex, travels down the spine of the monument, hits the granite complex, and grounds itself into the earth. But it's not just light, it's data. Inside the king's chamber, the granite sarcophagus, the transducer, begins to sing. It emits a tone so pure and so loud that it shatters the quartz crystals in the walls. The star shafts are no longer passive tunnels. They are glowing white-hot as they guide the signal from 3I Atlas directly into the core. The connection is made. The handshake is complete. And at that exact moment, the seventh jet engages. We looked at the Sphinx and expected a door to open. We expected Indiana Jones. We were wrong. The Sphinx didn't open. The Sphinx projected. From the heat bloom under the paws, a holographic schematic erupts into the night sky. It is 3,000 feet tall. It is a map, but not a map of Earth. It is a map of the local stellar neighborhood. It shows trajectories, it shows cycles, and it highlights a path. The Hall of Records isn't a physical library. It is a hard drive containing the navigational history of the human species. And right now, 3I Atlas is backing up the data. It is uploading the last 12,900 years of human history. Every war, every invention, every song, every scream. The Faraday Protocol, the government's plan to jam the signal, fails. Not because the missiles didn't launch, but because the guidance chips in the missiles were fried the moment they left the silos. You cannot jam a signal that uses the planet's own magnetic field as its carrier wave. For 6 minutes, the world is bathed in blue light. People in Tokyo, New York, and London fall to their knees, clutching their heads, not in pain, but in overload. The pineal gland, the biological receiver, is processing the upload. We aren't just watching the event, we are the bandwidth. And then, just as quickly as it started, the beam collapses. The blue star 3I Atlas flares one last time, shedding a massive shell of ionized gas, a final exhaust plume that will be visible for months. And then, it accelerates. It doesn't turn around. It slingshots past Earth, using our gravity to boost its speed back up to relativistic levels. It is leaving. The silence returns to Giza, But it is different now. The air is clear. The static is gone. The Great Pyramid stands dark and silent, its capstone glowing faintly with residual heat. The visitor has checked out. It has been 3 months since the departure. The panic has subsided, replaced by a strange, collective quiet. The news cycles are trying to return to normal, talking about politics and economics, but nobody is really listening, because we are different. The medical anomalies didn't stop when 3I Atlas left. The mass psychogenic illness has evolved. People are beginning to remember things they never learned. A child in Ohio wakes up speaking fluent Aramaic. A physicist in Geneva suddenly visualizes the solution to a quantum gravity equation that had stalled for 50 years. Musicians are composing symphonies they claim they heard during the 6 minutes of the blue light. The download wasn't a one-way extraction. 3I Atlas took our history, yes, but it left something behind. It pushed an update. The heat bloom under the Sphinx has vanished. The ground has cooled. Archaeologists finally received permission to excavate the void. They drilled down. They lowered cameras. Do you know what they found? Nothing. The chamber was there. The geometry was perfect, but it was empty. No scrolls, no gold, no alien bodies. Just walls made of a strange, vitrified glass, smooth as a mirror. It took weeks for them to realize that the room itself was the artifact. The walls are covered in microscopic etchings, laser-encoded binary data etched into the molecular structure of the glass. It is a storage medium that makes our best SSDs look like stone tablets. We haven't decoded 1% of it yet, but the first fragments are terrifyingly humble. They are stewardship instructions. They are atmospheric composition.
Charts. They are genetic repair sequences. It is a manual for terraforming, for re-terraforming. This implies the darkest truth of all. 3I Atlas didn't come to say hello. It came to drop off the survival kit. It operates on a 12,900-year cycle because that is the average lifespan of a civilization on this planet before we destroy ourselves or the planet resets us. The last time it came, we failed. The Younger Dryas hit, and we fell into amnesia. We forgot how to use the machine. We forgot who we were. This time, the pyramids were still standing. The circuit was damaged, but it worked. We caught the signal. We got the manual. The Giza anomaly was not a miracle. It was a scheduled maintenance stop. We are not the masters of the universe. We are the caretakers of a garden in a volatile sector of the galaxy. And the owner just stopped by to give us the tools to fix the fence. The jets of 3I Atlas have faded into the deep black of space, heading toward the next star system, the next nursery, the next test. We are alone again, but for the first time in history, we know exactly what we are supposed to do. The pyramids are quiet now. They have gone back to sleep. They won't be needed for another 12,000 years. The rest is up to us.